All right, I started.
Good evening and welcome to the presentation for Project 2 presented by Team 1. The research topic is regarding an extracurricular activity for the computer science department here at Wayne State. In this briefing, we are going to introduce each team member, their background and qualifications, and how that's relevant to the topic that we chose. And then we're going to introduce the topic, the background information on the topic, the objectives, the problems we hope to resolve by having an extracurricular activity in regards to computer science, why it's important, and current constraints that are keeping us from choosing a specific activity. And when we get to that slide, we'll discuss those constraints. Next, we will discuss the division of work in terms of what each team member will be responsible for, how we will hold each team member accountable, as well as the communication methods that we will use to discuss the project and create the project. After that, we're going to show you a timeline in which that follows the weekly modules to show you what we hope to accomplish during the semester. And then we will wrap up the presentation with several key points that we would like you to keep in mind. Starting with myself as an introduction, I'm Brian Vinson. I'm a computer science major here at Wayne State University. I've been here it's actually my first semester here. And when I first joined Wayne State, I really tried hard to look for extracurricular activities, and I found out how difficult it was to find them. And that's a little bit alarming to me because as someone with a second degree, I've had real world experience. I know what it's like trying to find the first job. And I learned the hard way, unfortunately, that the skills that companies want aren't the skills that colleges provide. And to me, that influenced my decision to research topics regarding extracurricular activities here at Wayne State for computer science. And I will lead it off to Hassan.
Hello, my name is Hassan Al-Moussawi. I'm a computer science major here at Wayne State University. I've had trouble as well finding extracurricular activities to build my skill set. But on the side, I have tried building websites using CSS and HTML. I've had some financial success with it, but again, I have not had any help from Wayne State University. And I will pass it on to Abby.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abby Coyote. I'm also a computer science major. I was a part of the Wayne State robotics team a couple years ago. And like Hassan, I also have experiences building websites as well as Android apps. I also work as a technician right now throughout my college career, but a lot of my experiences comes from college.
So some background information about computer science. Currently right now, the computer science field is constantly changing. It's changing dramatically versus the amount of experience and knowledge we're gaining from university. There's a huge gap between our skill set and what employers want. The skill set that we're developing in university is actually hindering us, considering that employers want something better or new. And we feel like Wayne State University doesn't allow students to experience these types of exposures from extracurricular activities, and thus this allows a hindrance on competitiveness. And I'll pass it on next. Sorry. So this is currently Wayne State University's computer science student resource page. All these links here don't really lead to anything. This is a prime example of how Wayne State University fails in trying to support students in the computer science field. Next. So our current objective is actually to allow more extracurricular activities. But currently right now, we are focusing on either two of the options we have: an expansion of Wayne State University's Tech Bunker and a yearly hackathon. So the Wayne State University Tech Bunker, we would like to add more equipment and to allow student CS students to perform smaller projects and then allow them to showcase those projects to attending local companies or employers. The hackathon will allow students to network with other students and practice their skills. Next, please. So our problems to resolve, extracurricular activities will basically fill in that gap left with the constant change in the computer science field and the lack of studying or information at the university. The extracurricular activities will allow students to become more competitive and allow them to become potential employees or qualified employees. Next.
So a lot of times, or haven't done some extracurricular activities and as well as job interviews, I've found that there is a lot that the classroom doesn't teach you about. I find myself oftentimes having to do extra research based upon what I learned from these experiences. And this is true for every computer science student that I've been in contact with. And that's where the importance of this project comes in, because it will prepare students where the curriculum cannot. It will help students prepare themselves for the future, as well as help students find their first job of choice coming out of college. Next slide, please. So the constraints for this project, one being the lack of feedback from key stakeholders. Now, myself, Hassan, and Brian, being computer science students, we've taken it upon ourselves to email professors, both past and present, trying to get some feedback. But for one reason or another, we haven't gotten any responses back up until this point. Another constraint is how we choose the activity. So if and when we do get feedback from stakeholders, it's unclear what this extracurricular activity will look like. It's going to be based on what inputs we get from teachers and what constraints already exist. And so basically the inputs and constraints are going to define our activity choice.
So now we get to the part where we had to discuss what we were going to contribute and how. We all agreed that we should contribute to every aspect of the presentation, both the written portion and the presentation portion. But we also felt it would be messy if there wasn't some sort of hierarchy involved. If we're all contributing, who gets the final say? So we have decided to divide the written document and presentation document. Each section will have 2 project leaders. And those project leaders will have the final say in terms of what that document will look like. For example, the proposal document, myself and Bianca volunteered to do writing because we felt writing was our strongest talent, I guess. Everyone will work on the document. Everyone will write each section, but myself and Bianca will look at the ideas, the structure, the grammar, and decide what the final proposal document will look like. The same thing goes for the presentation. Hassan and Abby have expressed interest in the presentation. That's their strong points. And so even though all 4 of us will work on the presentation, they will make final decisions on what it looks like, what type of content to include, how the content will be structured. We basically are relying on each team member's talents to make the right decisions so that the outcome is, we have the best outcome possible. Team communication. For virtual meetings and recording presentations like the one here today, we are going to use a combination of MS Teams and Zoom. Both of those seem to work pretty well. For any sort of random ideas or thoughts, we will just text on WhatsApp. No one is obligated to respond immediately. You know, if you text me at 4 a.m., I'm not going to respond to you. But just any random thoughts or ideas at any time, we use WhatsApp. For the actual content collaboration, we're going to use Google Slides and Docs. That way someone can go, if someone has a random idea, you can go into Google Docs, you can write it down, Then I can go into Google Docs. I can see who wrote it, what they wrote, and then I can choose, based on who the project leader is, they can choose to accept or deny that contribution or alter it. So we can go in there anytime. We don't have to get together to collaborate. It's like any thought in your head, put it down in Google Docs or Google Slides. And we're also going to use Canvas just as a last resort. If no one's responding on WhatsApp, if we don't see any contributions on Google Docs, we'll just send out a general email. In terms of how we will hold each team member accountable, we've come up with a 3-strike rule. And that 3-strike rule is based upon the idea that we all have a good faith agreement to complete tasks upon an agreed upon time. For example, if the team says, Brian, we need you to come up with an introduction for the proposal in the next 3 days, I agree to do that. Everyone is going to try their best to complete what is asked of them in the time that they're given. And if they don't, and they don't have a good reason, if there isn't a family emergency or power outage or some realistic constraint that keeps you from contributing, you will get 1 strike. And so if you get a total of 3 strikes, the result is we will take the issue to the professor outside of evaluation time. Maybe we will send a group email and maybe some documentation. Maybe if there's an email that we agreed upon, and we will just send it to the professor. And then also we have student evaluations in which we will talk about each team member's contributions and how well they lived up to those contributions. So we think based upon that, it will keep each team member focused and on track. And I will pass it on to Abby for the project schedule.
So here we have a timeline of what our project's schedule will look like, and this is solely based on the weekly modules on Canvas. So they are subject to change. But starting with June 15th through the 21st, we will have finished preliminary research, conducted student surveys, and chosen an appropriate extracurricular activity. And on June 22nd through June 28th, we plan to meet with administrators to set up any funding or resources required to perform the extracurricular activity. We also plan to prepare Project 3 and any preliminary solutions to key constraints. And on June 29th through July 5th, we will be creating a rough draft for Project 5 for meeting with the professor. On July 6th through the 12th, we will alter the rough draft based on the professor's review. We will choose 2 teams to review our rough draft before submission. And finally, on July 13th through the 19th, we will be altering our project based on the review from other teams, as well as prepare a final documents or presentations for submission.
So the key takeaways from this briefing are the following. The research topic, we are still in the process of choosing the final topic. Well, actually, we know the topic. It's an extracurricular activity, but we are in the process of defining what that activity will be. We have established team member contributions. We know who will contribute to what. We know who the project leaders are for each section. We know how the teams will be held accountable using the 3-strike rule and then reporting to the professor after 3 strikes. We've also defined our communication methods, as well as a project schedule that follows the weekly modules. So that concludes this oral briefing. We thank you for watching, and if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to us at our emails listed here. Thank you and have a good evening.